Now, for more insights into Trump's recent announcement and, of course, the impact of the U.S. election on India, former Ambassador to the United States Arun Singh joins us live from New Delhi. Welcome, Ambassador Singh, and thanks for joining us on this broadcast. Now, my first question to you is about this recent statement from the U.S. President, where it seems that his administration has all but declared victory ahead of the projections and the final results, and they have in fact said that they will go to the U.S. Supreme Court and question the integrity of the election. Tell us more about this recent announcement from the President.
The outcome of the election so far has essentially played out as many people had anticipated. The race is very close. Most of the results of different states as projected, because you have to keep in mind that none of these are official announcement of results, because official announcements take time and they are done by different states.
Right.
These are projections done by news agencies. And traditionally, historically, two competing news agencies, they do these projections based on detailed analysis, professional analysis, analysis of data, and by and large, it has turned out to be correct, and historically and traditionally, that is accepted.
Right.
But these are not official announcement of results. But that having been said, the projections so far suggest that by and large, as of now, the trend is as it was in 2016 during that. And the only change that has happened so far is the indication that Arizona, that had voted for Trump in 2016, this time will go with Joe Biden.
Right.
So the crux now remains in what are described as the battleground states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And traditionally, very often they used to vote Democratic, but then they had voted for Trump. And there, the counting has not come to an end, and that is because all these states saw a large number of people coming out for early voting and mail-in voting.
Right.
There is a sense that those who voted early, those who sent in votes by mail, tended to vote Democratic. And those votes in some of these states, especially in Pennsylvania, are counted after the votes of those who vote on November 3 are counted. So those results would come in. And therefore, President Trump's strategy is to see if he can somehow freeze by some way or through legal challenges counting of votes so that the early voting votes and mailing voting votes are not counted, especially in Pennsylvania. And that gives him a path to victory.
Right. Ambassador Singh, I'd interrupt you there and I'd request you to stay with us on this broadcast. We'll come back to you for more questions about the India-US dynamic ahead of the election. For now, we are also being joined live by Jagriti Dave from Washington, D.C. on the latest. Thanks for joining us, Jagriti, on this broadcast. Now, let's talk about the recent shocking statement coming from the US President, where he has clearly said that he may, in fact, go to the US Supreme Court, and he has questioned the integrity of the US vote yet again. Tell us more about this recent statement.
Yeah, this was absolutely extraordinary stuff from the President of the United States, saying, calling it a major fraud on our election. He said he was going to the Supreme Court and he wants all voting to stop. He thanked the American people for their support and claimed that there were people trying to disenfranchise that group, statements that had no evidence to them. He is claiming victory in places like Georgia and North Carolina, where the vote counting is still going on. He said there's a lot of life in Georgia. But this is extraordinary, where he's claiming he's won in states like Pennsylvania, where postal votes can still be received in Pennsylvania up to 3 days after November the 3rd. And he is claiming that he wants votes like that to stop. He wants votes across the United States to stop being counted, because he claims that there is fraud being taken place without evidence.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, Jagriti. Is the US President essentially saying that he will not count any votes being sent by mail?
Well, he is claiming that the President has long cast doubt on the validity of mail-in ballots, where they're saying that they are subject to fraud, the process is subject to fraud, and the fact that these ballots can be counted days after being received days after being received on election day, such as in Pennsylvania. So what the president, he had laid the groundwork. Critics of what the president had been saying said that those sorts of comments, those casting doubt on that kind of on the mail-in ballots, is laying the groundwork for this sort of declaration that he's made. Now, some experts have said this was this was a long shot, that it was highly unlikely that the president would say something like this, but he is effectively saying he wants to engage in a legal action disputing the results of some of these elections where there have been mail-in ballots that are being counted past November the 3rd.
Right. Now, Jagati, this election is turning out to be a nail-biter for sure, with Trump projected to win crucial states like Ohio, Texas and Florida, while Biden, on the other hand, has asked for patience. So tell us more. What is the mood like in the US right now, and what are political pundits saying?
Well, it's fraught. It's this election is on a knife edge. Polls were predicting that Joe Biden had a lead over Donald Trump in the national polls, 10-point lead. But in those battleground states, it was a close election. President Trump has won many of those battleground states. You've talked about Iowa, for example. These are states that he is projecting to win, and so. Really, there hasn't been a blue landslide that we have been that has been expected by the Democrats, but there hasn't been a red wave either. It is that this knife-edge vote is reflecting the intense divisions within the country, and clearly this is stressful times, anxious times for people who are watching. And especially with this extraordinary statement that the president has just made. Right. The divisions are likely to continue.
Right. Now, the final question for you, Jagati. Will the president leave the White House peacefully should the voting not go in his favor?
We can't say anything as yet. We can't say anything about whether the vote will go in his favour or not. We can't say what the president is going to do. He has just said that he wants to go to the Supreme Court and he wants voting to stop. So, we are in unprecedented, we already were in unprecedented territory. That has gotten exponentially so in the last few moments after that statement from the president. So we are all, on the edge of our seats for a ride that is expected to take a couple of days if those votes, in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin continue to be counted. The twists and turns are continuing in this election.
Right. All right, Jagati, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast, and thank you for all your insights. We'll be watching the results closely, of course. Now, Ambassador Singh is still with us. Thank you, Ambassador, for staying with us. I'd like to get in your inputs on the dynamic after the election. So let's get your predictions in first. Now, the US media says that Donald Trump has won crucial states like Florida, Ohio and Texas, while Biden, on the other hand, has asked voters to be patient and wait for the results. So what are your predictions?
So I'm not surprised by what President Trump has done, because for a long time he has been preparing the ground for his strategy. Right. He has said repeatedly that there is a lot of fraud in mail-in voting and there is no basis for that. He has said repeatedly in the last few days that the election results should be known on the day of the election and should not have to wait for several more days. So his strategy has been clear, that he knew that with the kind of voting pattern that happens in the US, it cannot be ruled out that in certain states he may be in the lead up to a point of time and then lose the lead. Again, given the kind of personality Donald Trump is, he is unlikely to accept defeat if he loses. And one doesn't know what the outcome is going to be, because he has claimed that the rally at his inauguration was the best ever. His administration has been the best ever. The economy under him has done the best ever. So even if he loses, he'd like to be seen not as having lost fairly, but having had to leave because of any kind of a legal and court process. Right. Therefore, clearly, they will now take the matter to courts and hope to see if through the kind of judicial appointments he has done over the last few years, he can get the kind of decision that favors him. If that doesn't happen, and if the voting goes against him, and if he has to actually leave the White House, he will certainly say that he did not really lose, it was a different process, so that, he maintains his claims in a certain way. And I think I saw also what Vice President Biden had done. Given the current trends, where the voting has essentially held along 2016 lines. In the battleground states, the final results are awaited, but Trump is in lead at the moment. His message to his supporters essentially was, don't lose hope, just hang on, wait till the final results to come in. So I think as of now, picture unclear. And as your other guest said, it shows that deep divisions in US society persist. And they are very sharp divisions, they are bitter divisions. And there's nearly a 50-50 divide in the US electorate overall between the Republicans and Democrats.
Right. Well said, Ambassador Singh. Now, the US and India, let's talk about that. They have shared strong ties, mostly because of the camaraderie between Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of course. So do you see this continuing, especially because of the common clashes with China?
I see the trend to continue because, the new phase of the India-US relationship was started by President Bill Clinton in 2000 when he visited India. And after that, President George Bush, a Republican, took it forward through the Civil Nuclear Cooperation Agreement. Then President Obama, a Democrat, he visited India twice in his tenure. No US president had done that. He articulated support for India's permanent membership of UN Security Council, declared India a major defense partner. And then President Trump, a Republican, he declared India as strategic trade authorization level 1 partner, which is meant for closest allies and partners for technology releases.
Right.
He visited India in February this year, the final year of his administration. In Houston last year, he attended a joint rally with our Prime Minister, which is very unusual for a visiting leader, in the presence of 50,000 Indian Americans. So the relationship has advanced through Republican and Democratic presidents, and on our side similarly.
Right.
In 2000, it was in a sense initiated by Prime Minister Vajpayee, then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh worked on the Civil Nuclear Agreement, and Prime Minister Modi again, under his prime ministership, the relationship has also advanced. So given all that, I would feel that whoever wins the election in the US, the positive trajectory of the India-US relationship will be sustained.
Absolutely. Just my final question for you, Ambassador Singh, just crystal ball gazing a bit here. How would the global dynamics change should there be a new president in the White House? And on the other hand, if Trump wins, what will be his first mandate?
Well, surprisingly, it has been fairly clear that what kind of policy Joe Biden will adopt if he becomes president, because he's written articles, he's made comments about what he's going to do. But people are not very clear on what Trump 2.0 will look like compared to Trump 1.0. Because, in the first term, you're looking at winning re-election. So you're still looking at your voter base as to what will work with them. In your second term, you start looking at your legacy.
Right.
What is the legacy to leave behind? And so what kind of policy Trump will take needs watching. People will want to see how does he approach allies. Because he has been very critical of US commitment to alliances, saying that has drained in the US. So people in Europe will be watching that. China will be watching closely, because on China, Trump has taken a far clearer and far stronger set of actions, pushing back against predatory Chinese economic and trade practices and their stealing of intellectual property, and whatever China is trying to do in terms of changing norms of international behavior in the South China Sea and the Indo-Pacific. So there the Trump administration has been much more forward-leaning than others. So they will watch that. Russia will be watching, because, President Trump has wanted to move positively with Russia, with President Putin, but he has not been able to.
Right. We've just lost connection with Ambassador Singh, but we'll try and get him back as soon as possible. For now, let's shift our focus to the recent development on Election Day in America. US President Donald Trump seems to have claimed victory ahead of the polls. Trump said that he wants to go to the Supreme Court and even accused Democrats of trying to steal the election. Now, remember, Donald Trump has time and again accused and made allegations of fraud within the mail-in ballot system in America, and his current statement comes as crucial battleground states in the United States continue to count votes. Remember, all of the projections being made right now are by US media houses, and they are simply projections, as we have been stating since our coverage began. And Trump has already declared that Republicans are ready for a big celebration.